Well, very excited today to be joined by the one and only Rob Tunstall. Hi, Rob. How's it going?
Hello. Good. Yeah. How are you?
Good. We were just chatting. It's been a while since we were able to talk, but Rob, me, and Kit worked together on a ton of Zelda projects in our day at Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to tell one of those stories today.
But something we would always try to do with these trips is like, what other value could we get out of them being there? And at the time, there was a person in the New York office who we affectionately refer to as Hollywood-san, who we should say was credited in the Mario movie. So congratulations
so he really is
to
Hollywood-san now.
Nice.
Yeah.
But he at the time was in charge of these sort of, I don't even know what to call them, like special projects videos, one-off videos. And he put together this idea for this video that we could do with Mr. Aonuma, again, promoting A Link Between Worlds, where we would sort of chase him through the streets of New York City, saying like, oh, I'm here in New York, but they want me to get back to work. So if they find me, they're going to send me straight back to the office, was kind of the premise. And I don't know about you. I didn't really think too much about this. I was like, oh yeah, we'll do that after we finish the really important stuff. But the kicker was that you and I were in it.
Yeah. Did we know that?
I don't think so.
It may have been a late admission in their planning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think, because I was planning most of the script and the, like the quote unquote storyboards. It was really not a storyboard. It's nothing fancy with Hollywood-san. And we had plans of, using that as a promotional video as part of the launch week stuff that we were doing for A Link Between Worlds. And at that point, I think, the devs were, and Aonuma-san in particular, were very open to this kind of, these kinds of like zany videos. It kind of stemmed from a few E3s ago when we had that big developer like presence, and they all did like crazy stuff on social media with us. And so I think there was some bit of precedence. So it would always struck me as interesting. And as I look back on that video, I'm like, wow, they let us do this. It's so weird because it's such like I don't know. It didn't feel like it was something super serious. It didn't have like a lot of perceived like traditional value up front. Like it wasn't like a big media interview. We could have used the day to do like another 6 interviews or something like that and have more of that like very tangible, like you meet with this outlet, this is the result that you get. Instead, we gallivanted around New York City for basically the whole day doing this. And so it always struck me as it being like odd that this all got approved somehow. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, looking back, now that you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, that was weird. I think at the time, like, I was like new enough that I was just like, I guess this is what you do. I guess I'm going to do this every 6 months. Right. But no, it never, I don't think anything quite that strange ever really happened again.
So in true Hollywood-san fashion, he had quite an epic scope for this video. So we started in Central Park. This was like an all-day shoot. We started in Central Park, and then we went like to a few other locations in sort of Midtown. And then we ended up around the office of the production company that we were using, which was in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So, and we also did have like, he must have had a pretty good budget for this because there was a lot of stuff that they added. Like they added the little like wall Aonuma later.
Yeah.
The icon, like the effect of him jumping into the wall. So we were just like, yeah, I guess you'll do this later. And it turned out great. But at the time we were like, what? I'm not sure I know what you want me to do.
There was a great shot of him on, like, literally, we were at Wall Street, and he was like very instant. And Wall Street is very far away from Columbus Circle, like on the other side of town. So he had made us all go down, basically trompsing around New York City. And there was a great shot where Mr. Aonuma like flattened himself against a brick wall, I think, in that neighborhood. And that's where he wanted to do like that chalk Mr. Aonuma effect, which was amazing. But yeah, again, I was like, how did this get approved? Like, we would never, like, years later, we like don't even think about asking for something as ambitious and sort of out of the box as what we did on that trip, you know?
The whole
Krysta
trip
likes to
felt
make
pretty
fun of
magical.
my high stepping in that video. Rob, I think your running technique is outstanding. I'm just going to say that. You gotta ham it up. You're in a great video. You gotta look like a goofball.
You guys had like the goofy sunglasses on too. And the other thing that's really funny was that you guys are both very tall. And I think you're maybe around the same height.
Rob is very tall. Rob is much taller.
Are you taller than Kit, or are you
way taller?
Yeah. Way taller. Okay.
A bit way taller. Yeah.
A bit way.
Because there's a really great in the thumbnail. There's a great shot of you guys wearing the goofy sunglasses. You both look just so tall compared to Mr. Aonuma, who's not very tall, and you're standing sort of back to back, and you do look sort of a little bit menacing, like both of you actually, even though it's supposed to be kind of jokey, but like to have these big tall guys chasing little Mr. Aonuma across New York City was a pretty cool spectacle, honestly. Like, and you guys totally hammed it up, and I loved it. It was really funny.
I do remember being somewhat confused about like the tone. I was like, is Aonuma-san in danger? Like, are we actually a threat? Like, what are we doing?
So I tackle him and cuff him, right?
Oh man.
Yeah, we will often sort of lament, Nintendo really pulling back with their developers, and you don't really see them very much. Like, maybe you'll see them reading off a teleprompter in a Nintendo Direct. Like, that's an example of the sort of thing that we used to do that just had a lot of heart to it. Again, it's hard to like quantify the sales impact, but it did really reflect that sense of playfulness that they have. And like, we love Mr. Aonuma. I think we want everybody else to love Mr. Aonuma because we know how great a guy he was, and that did sort of help to impart that in some sort of indirect way to the fans.
Yeah, I remember. He hopefully became even more beloved. He already was so beloved at the time. I remember like after the Comic-Con panel, so many cosplayers had come to that panel. There were like so many people dressed up as Zelda characters, and we got like a picture of him like surrounded by them after the end. And I remember I had like this little conversation with him after. It was just like, it looks like the famous picture of like Jim Henson surrounded by all of the Muppets.
All the Muppets, yeah.
I was just like you're on. I was like, man, you're on that level now. Like that's like you're that kind of creator. I think like you've inspired all these people to just love what you've done so much. It was like really great, And I don't know. Oh, go ahead.
Beyond high stepping through New York, did you have a favorite moment of working with Mr. Aonuma or interacting with Aonuma? Because you had just as many as we did, if not more.
I remember this was a few years later, but at the Game Awards when Breath of the Wild won, I think we were all there too. I was there with Aonuma-san and I forgot his name now. The other director, great guy, Fujibashi-san. I'm pretty sure. And yeah, I think it was a really funny experience because, like, I don't know, like those shows come together like so hot, like everything's like pretty last minute. Like we're kind of like figuring everything out the same last time. So like navigating there was that like kind of like reveal where like Aonuma-san like comes out of the mist and pulls the master sword out, and like we were up on stage like rehearsing that and blocking it and like figuring it out like on the fly. And I remember like just being struck by like how cheerful and good natured he was while this was happening, because like internally I was just like, what are we doing? What am I supposed to do? How is this going to work? And he was just like, it'll work out. We'll be fine. It's like, oh, I'm glad you're here.
That's the mindset. We've all got our fingers crossed.
Yeah. He was very good in those situations.
He was really
very
good.
Like good with rolling with the punches and sort of just going with it, which I think is such a great quality for a developer, probably to have, because you probably meet with so much unexpected stuff along the way, and he does seem like he has a good kind of attitude about that kind of stuff. So
For sure.
So I think we've all had our great moments and interactions with Mr. Aonuma, and it's so fun to remember those. Rob, after you left Nintendo, you've sort of taken on a new career change. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. So pretty much the whole time I was working at Nintendo, I was also doing some film scoring, independent films, for a few directors I had met earlier on in my like time in Japan and elsewhere. And yeah, I kind of, when it was 2019, I just decided to leave Nintendo and maybe focus a bit more on that. One of the directors I was working with was like getting a chance to make like, a pretty substantial feature film for the first time. And I was going to score that. And I was like, I probably can't have a day job and do this. So I would need to like, I don't know, like I could have been like, well, I could take like a sabbatical or something. But I decided, I think, and I kind of thought somewhere down the line I might move away from the Seattle area as well, which I more or less did. I didn't move that far away, but I moved far enough away, right? And so yeah, I tried to give music a real shot. So yeah, I've been working scoring, films and games a bit, and I also still do localization freelance as well. So I think the last thing I worked on that came out was actually Three Hopes, the Fire Emblem Three Hopes. So I worked on Three Houses and Three Hopes, even though one was internal and one was external. So
that's
it's weird
amazing.
how that worked out. Yeah,
it's a good game. Good writing.
Any of the games that you've scored that you'd want to shout out if people want to check those out?
Oh, sure. There's a few things that are still in development, but there is a local Seattle indie title called Riposte with an exclamation point, which is a party game, fencing party game, where it's usually 2-on-2, and like one player is controlling the sword and one is the shield, and you're trying to kind of coordinate. It's really fun, actually. It's hard to describe, so hopefully people give it a shot. And yeah, and I would say also the film Ike Boys, which I scored, came out, I think it's on digital rental, but it's basically about some teenagers in Oklahoma who are given superpowers by a cursed anime DVD. It's got anime sections, it's got tokusatsu, like Godzilla style sections. It's got like Kamen Rider DNA in it as well. So if you're into any of that stuff, you'll probably enjoy it.
That's awesome.
Well, you are a man of many talents, Rob.
Thanks. Yeah, we were always inspired, Rob, by you and how you sort of, left Nintendo to follow your dream. And here we are. We did the same, inspired by you. So yeah. It truly was like amazing when you, when you were leaving. We were really sad, obviously, but we were also really excited for you because that's what you were doing. You were leaving to like follow your, dream of becoming a musician. And we thought that was really amazing. So glad to hear that everything has been going really well for you.
Yeah. And I'm glad. I mean, it seems like things are going well with you too. So I'm glad about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, if people want to find you online, where can they look you up?
Oh boy. I am Robert Tunstall on Twitter, while that still exists. Rob Tunstall Music on Instagram and TikTok. Hopefully those stay around.
Awesome.
Who knows? It's all a shot in the dark at this point, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rob, for hanging out with us. It was so great to catch up and just share some of our shared wonderful memories that we have with Aonuma-san.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.